No. It's the one that goes beep, boo boo bop, boo boo beep. Yeah. Yo, no, sorry dude, there's just someone at the door, hold on. Yo! 10 easy fingerboard tricks too.
So you bought this DVD, expecting to learn how to fingerboard, did you?
Sir, yes sir!
Well, you're at the right place, because today, that's exactly what we're gonna be doing. We're being bombed! It was all a trap! Get out of here, soldier, go! Okay. Help. Soldier, are you okay? Please. Tell my family I love them. Snap out of it! You're gonna be able to tell that yourself! It's too late for me. Please, one last thing before I go. What is it, son? Could you... Yeah? Could you... Come on, son, spit it out.
Could you make another fingerboard trick tutorial, please? 10 easy fingerboard tricks, part 2! This is a very highly anticipated video. You wouldn't believe the amount of comments I get asking me to make fingerboard tutorials, but I just haven't really made any tutorials because I just didn't really want to. I want to say a big thank you to Tech Deck for making this video happen. If you want to go check Tech Deck out, all their links are in the description. And yeah, let's get into this. Trick number 1, Tre Flip. I know in the first video we already went over a Tre Flip, but I think there's some stuff that I could add to those tips. Chances are when you first start, this is what you do. Just kind of like put your fingers on, just randomly flip it. Most of the time it does a Tre Flip-ish motion. But in saying that, fingerboarding is kind of like button mashing in a video game. Sometimes you're gonna do some cool stuff, but if you're actually trying to do things on purpose, it becomes a little more difficult. So a Tre Flip. For most tricks, you're gonna have your finger on the very tip of the tail, but what I found for Tre Flips and tricks where you gotta scoop, your back finger's on the edge of the tip, just slightly off from center, and your front finger's just kind of in the middle. I find that makes the scoop a little easier to control. So you're gonna pop, and that back finger's gonna scoop the tail around, and as it's doing that, this front finger's gonna straighten out, and you're gonna feel the deck on the tip of your finger, and that's what's gonna make the board completely flip over. And then once you see the board come around, you just land it, and that's a Tre Flip. If you're doing the trick and you're feeling the deck on that part of your finger, you're doing it correct, because that means your finger's doing something to influence the flip of the deck. That's a very technical way of looking at it, but if you just randomly flip the board around, you're gonna land a Tre Flip every now and then. The first video you saw of mine was the Tech Deck tutorial video. Yeah. This is a second part to that.
Really?
Yeah.
You want me to show you how to do it? Tre Flip.
Oh!
You have one try to land a Tre Flip. If you land it, you get $100.
One try.
Yeah.
I'm about to get a
If you don't land this attempt, it's gonna cut straight back to the tutorial.
Okay.
Do you believe in your brother?
Yeah, I believe in him. I'm doing it now.
One Tre Flip.
No!
Trick number 2, big spin. In the last video I taught you how to do pop shove-its, which next to a Tre Flip is probably the first trick you're gonna learn, which is on purpose. We're gonna take that pop shove-it and we're gonna do a backside big spin, which is a 360 pop shove-it with a body varial. And you might be thinking, David, 360 pop shove it? We haven't even learned that. It's okay, because you can kind of cheat these. You can just do a normal pop shove it, and then continuing the same motion, just slide your wheels around. Instead of thinking of it as a 360 pop shove it with a 180 body varial, think of it as a pop shove it backside revert. Once you start doing that, you'll end up rotating the board more and more, and there you go. That's a big spin. Trick number 3, a big flip. it builds off of a Tre Flip and a big spin. You're gonna do the first trick, which is a Tre Flip, but instead of landing in regular, you're gonna land in switch. I'm not sure if that sounds hard to you guys. It's extremely easy for me because I'm a man. So you're just gonna do a Tre Flip, and when you pop that Tre Flip, you can already rotate your hand to be in the switch position and then land it. The timing is all exactly the same as a Tre Flip, so it should feel quite natural. These might not seem easy, but if you learn them trick by trick, that does actually become very easy. Next trick. I went over this trick in the last video, but this is the trick that you're gonna wanna learn when you start fingerboarding. This is a kickflip.
Can you actually show me how to do the kickflip?
Yeah, it's just the same as like...
Hey, do it again.
The kickflip is the impressive fingerboard trick because it shows you got control, and it's harder to do a kickflip by accident than a Tre Flip. Like, you do a kickflip, you meant to do that kickflip. If you know how a kickflip works on an actual skateboard, it's pretty similar to a fingerboard. God damn. There's just a couple differences. Obviously on a skateboard you flick your foot like this. You can't really do that with the tip of your finger. So you're gonna pop, and once it pops, you're gonna move your whole hand and do this kind of motion right here. And to make sure you're actually doing the trick properly, you're gonna feel the board on the outside edge of the tip of your index finger. I think a good way to learn this trick is to kind of overdo it. You move your hand through the nose of the board, because that's gonna make sure that you get the flick. And once you kind of develop that feeling, you can lessen the amount of flick you put into it until you just have a nice little controlled kickflip. Another thing that helps with kickflips is actually learning a fakie kickflip before. If the trick involves flicking with your index finger, a lot of the time fakie tricks feel a lot easier because when you pop, the nose of the board goes straight into that front finger. Rather than if you're riding normally, you kind of have to chase that nose with your front finger. Another thing that really helps is doing tricks on a bed. The bounciness, you get more air off of it and you don't really have to worry as much about popping the board. Once you get a good kickflip, it makes doing a bunch of other tricks significantly easier because you can understand how the board really works. Science. Physics. That's what fingerboarding is. I'm a scientist.
I get them about 2% of the time.
Is that a heel flip?
That was a heel flip.
Yeah, that was a heel flip. Oh! 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 Yes! Trick number 5, Ollie. The basis of pretty much all fingerboarding. This is a trick you're gonna want to learn good, but honestly when you're learning, it is harder to do than the tricks I previously talked about. But it is a trick that once you learn, unlocks so much more stuff in fingerboarding, because you'll be able to Ollie onto stuff, you'll be able to Ollie off of stuff. As always, make sure your finger's at the very tip of the deck, right there. The board's gonna pop, hit the ground, that's gonna make the board go into the air, and then you're gonna move your whole hand forward to even out the board and bring it down. But when you're first learning them, they're probably not gonna be like that, and it's gonna be more of a, which is all good. A really good way you can learn this is to do it on a wall. That'll kind of give you a better idea of how it's done. When you bring them down to the table, it really is all about timing. It's just finding the balance between the pop and the slide up to the nose. But another tip which I found helped with my Ollies when I was learning them, instead of just doing them on flat ground like this, try and do them over something. So I have another tech deck here, trying to Ollie over something. It kind of gives you a visual and it forces you to actually do it rather than just going, and being able to see that you go over the obstacle without actually hitting it, it kind of gives you confirmation that, yeah, you can Ollie. This is a trick that you're gonna want to spend quite a lot of time learning and making sure you get it right, because once you do, fingerboarding becomes significantly more fun. Next trick. Building off of that Ollie, we have the first trick, which isn't a flat ground trick. We're gonna bring in this rail, and that's going to be a board slide. In a lot of cases, you won't really have to have a good Ollie to be able to board slide. Probably won't even really need to know how to Ollie to board slide. But if you can Ollie, it makes it a bit easier. You're gonna pop the board, and once those front trucks get over whatever obstacle you have, you're doing a board slide. A good way to learn them is coming in at quite an angle, because when you do that, you don't have to do the 90-degree turn. You can just kind of ride up and pop onto it. But when you get better at board slides, you can come in at a straight angle, pop, do a 90-degree turn, land on the rail, and then ride off. Learning that little 90-degree turn, it just kind of comes naturally. If your Ollie's good enough, you should be able to manipulate that Ollie just by turning your hand to get into board slide. You can do a frontside board slide the exact same way, just approaching the rail from a different angle. Frontside's a little more awkward in my opinion, because rather than turning your hand like this, you kind of have to move your fingers like this. In my opinion, this next trick, trick number 7, I actually find a lot easier than doing a straight front board, and that is a kickflip front board. When you're learning kickflips, you might find that naturally the board wants to spin into a varial rotation, which is what makes varials and backside flips so easy. So when you do a kickflip front board, you pop that varial kickflip, but you just don't put as much power into it. So the board does that 90-degree turn. And when you see it above the rail, you just land on it. Once you get kickflip front board good, you can even try to do a kickflip backside lip slide, and you might find that it's actually pretty easy once you know how to do kickflip front boards. Trick number 8, Noseslide. Extremely simple trick. A little trickier than a board slide, but not by much. It's gonna be a lot easier to learn it on the edge of a book, and luckily for me, I have a book right here. This is a joke book. Why was the teacher cross-eyed? Because she couldn't control her pupils. How do you make an artichoke? You strangle it! What do you do with a green monster? You put it in the sun until it ripens. Oh! Instead of popping your front trucks over to do a board slide, you just kind of lift your nose up high enough to get your nose part of the board over the edge of whatever you're doing it on. Coming in at a bit of an angle. And this one you can Ollie into, which is real similar to a board slide. Ollie, do that 90-degree turn, and just land on your nose. It might sound tricky, but it's really not. Ninth trick we're gonna be doing in a half pipe or a quarter pipe. Any half pipe stall trick is pretty easy, like you should just be able to work it out. Axle stall, rock to fakie, nose stall. But a trick which is a little harder but way more satisfying is a blunt to fakie. You're just gonna ride up, get into that, and then popping in is the hardest part, which isn't very hard at all. Pop that tail so the trucks go back over the coping and you go back into the ramp. Adding on to that, once you learn a blunt to fakie, it is surprisingly easy to do a blunt kickflip to fakie. Once you're locked in the blunt, a kickflip is just popping, and you don't have to chase the nose of the board. It goes right into your finger and you can just flick it and go down. Once you give it a go, you'll be like, hey, that's actually very easy. Blunt kickflip to fakie, god tier trick right there. Now trick number 10. I did briefly go over this trick in the last video. This is what some call the sacred tech deck trick. We're gonna have to go outside for this one. Not a cloud in the sky, alright, sick. Hey. Yeah, I was just seeing if it was possible to request air clearance in about 2 minutes. Oh, I'm gonna attempt the sacred trick. Breaking news! We've just received word that David will be attempting the sacred trick. David, if you're watching, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? When you do break down the excruciating politics behind a trick like this, I do believe that the world needs this trick now more than ever.
Excuse me, sir. Have you heard that David is attempting the sacred trick?
Yes?
Yes.
I never thought I'd live to see this day. Honey, did you hear the news? David Jones is attempting the sacred trick. Yes!
I don't think that's coming back. Once again, I just want to say a huge thank you to Tech Deck for making this video happen, and hopefully this video helped you fingerboard if you're trying to learn to fingerboard, which is probably why you click on this video. And yeah, alright, well, that's the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to